Playblack fam? Miguel here with some exciting content. We're talking about X-Men 97, the last 4 episodes. But surprise, we got a panel, and the panel is dope. We got Deshaun Gordon King, a newcomer to the panel, but with awesome takes, and then your old homie Daisy holding it down with the opinionated Slytherin-like takes. Remember to like and subscribe, share with your friends, hit up the YouTube channel, hit us up on Instagram, all that good stuff. You're going to get the first half of the panel this week. In a couple weeks, you get the second half. So without further ado, here's the Playblack.
Hello, I'm Jay, an arts manager, educator, writer, musician, producer, and professional daydreamer.
And I'm Miguel, a musician, arts administrator, educator, and lover of all things nerdy.
And this is Playblack, a podcast dedicated to nerddom, reviews, and hot takes on arts and culture and the human experience from the perspective of two melanated artists.
Anime bros, master's degrees, and
therapy.
Per usual.
Amen.
You know, the vibe.
We're not alone today, Miguel. Who snuck into the room? Who's here?
We have the panel. It isn't everyone who's traditionally on our wonderful panel, but we have some new faces, which is beautiful. Would y'all care to introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. Daisy, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. I hacked my way back in. You guys have been trying to keep me out, but here I am. So nice to see you all again. My name's Daisy. I am a musician, a nerd, a good friend of the two that are hosting this wonderful podcast, and I'm just excited to be here. Oh, wow.
Shade right off the dome. Shade. Wow.
Good friend, such a strong term. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Deshaun, who are you, and what gives you the right to be here?
Well, as you can see, I am bringing some beauty to the podcast. I am bringing some glow, and also, I'm DGK. I'm a multi-hyphenate artist. I specialize in the flute. But I am also using music to create healing spaces for people all over, make music accessible. And let's remember what music does. It heals the spirit. It uplifts us. Also, big nerd, huge gamer, Square Enix and Capcom are my companies. They can do no wrong by me. Let's see, what else? Also, aspiring author. So again, the multi-hyphenate, and I believe in educating the children.
Amen.
And there it is.
Future.
Yeah.
And
according to Whitney, yes.
The thing that I heard most there was wonderful human being and nerd, and artist, of course. Those are the general qualifications that get you onto Playblack. Yep. Jay, today we're finishing up our tour de force coverage of the wonderful X-Men 97. We're covering episodes 7 through 10 with our beloved panel.
A hefty task indeed. And since we last updated our thoughts on this show, the Rotten Tomatoes score has gone back up to 100 to become the highest rated Marvel property ever in the MCU. So kudos to X-Men 97. I will also say the internet is a fickle bitch, right? Because
absolutely, yep.
The show starts, it's doing really well. Everyone is just like, why this man got fired? We asked the question a little bit about halfway through. And of course, everything comes full circle. For at the end of it, people be like, I'm glad he got fired. We moving on. That's been interesting to watch. But that's just how it all works. So yes, we're going to get into 7, 8, 9, and 10 today. And we tried to invite folks with opinions. So Deshaun, I know this is your first time. Have an opinion, stick to it. We're not trying to be divisive here. We believe in, communicating. It's not giving the state of our current politics. So we can change our minds. But have a mind to be changed is the one advice I could give as we get into today.
Yeah, I've been working on the mind for the past 32 years. So hopefully it is in place.
Yeah. Miguel, did I miss anything?
No, I think we're good with that. Let's get into the Playblack. First up, Jay, would you provide a Jay-ified review recap of episode 7, Bright Eyes?
Sure. Episode 7, Bright Eyes. So, episode 5 happened. Horror, trauma, bad shit. And episode 6 was just like, let's just step away from that for a moment. And we followed Charles and Aurora. Episode 7 is just like, okay, let's get back to it. And it opens on a funeral, pouring one out for our nigga Remy. And we have Pastor Nightcrawler out there just speaking words. You know what I mean? Preaching. And he's just like, it's crazy for somebody whose power was kinetic energy to not understand his potential. I was like, ooh, not a scientific deep cut bar. Sir, go off. And we're all pouring one out. Now, Jubilee, mind you, she's still young. We're supposed to believe that she has grown up. And now Roberto is the new one. But she has a little young nigga moment where she goes, where is Rogue? Why is she not here? Like, how could she not be here? And everybody's like, hold up, people grieve differently, okay? Like, not too much on Rogue right now. Cut to, Rogue is grieving very differently. There's no tears. She's all hands right now. Rogue is all hands. And so she's basically looking down the people who made the things that killed everybody, right? And so it takes her to this prison where, I don't know if y'all know this was General Ross. And for those of us that are not huge comics people and maybe MCU people, that's the old white man that was like, sign these accords. It was that man, right? And like Betsy Ross's daddy, and Betsy being the one that be sleeping with a Hulk sometimes. So Rogue knocking on that door, and everyone's just like, sir, should we be worried? He's like, listen, this was designed for the Hulk. This a little girl, and he can't even finish his sentence, okay, before she knocks down that damn door. And she's just like, sir, where this nigga I'm looking for at? And he's just like, I don't really know, to be honest. I'm sorry, okay? So she leaves, runs into Captain America, our biggest op, right? One thing that's been interesting, again, as a non-comics person to see is the interplay and relationship between the Avengers and the X-Men. And it's very much given that the X-Men are for the people and the Avengers are not, right? They're the establishment. And Captain really lives up to that, where he's just like, let's go find some stuff. They make some discoveries. And she's like, so you gonna help, right? He's just like, nah, the way this is set up. And she's like, say less. Throws his shield out into the mountains, and she's just like, "What you gonna do without this, sir?"
Fetch, bitch.
Fetch, literally. And then she dives off, finds the man she's looking for. She decides to go all rogue on him. He's like, "Oh my god!" But turns out it was part of the plan, kind of. Okay, so she leaves. Runs into Nightcrawler. He's just like, hey, yo, sis, I get that there's a lot of inner turmoil in your heart, but like, it's okay. And she's just like, he dead. And he's like, I know. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm a bad sister, because they're weirdly adopted. And he's like, you're not a bad sister. Family it's not blood. It's who you choose. And I choose you, my nigga. And she's like, okay. And finally has her grieving moment. Guy Ritchie is now murdered in his sleep by one Bastion. And, oh, did I? No, I'm sorry. I skipped a huge part. So before this whole breakdown happens, my bad. After she finds Guy Ritchie, she's like, all right, team, I know where this nigga Trask is. Let's go get him. All right. So everybody's reunited. They gonna go get Trask. Trask is looking all sorry. He's just like, I didn't know this would happen. I just made weapons, but weapons being used to kill people in the way I designed, that's crazy. I didn't know. Okay. And so he's like, I'm gonna unalive myself. And is about to jump off the building. And Rogue is like, sir, what you not gonna do is that. Answer my questions. He's like, I can't. I have no answers. She's like, okay, bet. Then finish what you were doing before. Drops him. And what's crazy now, and we're gonna talk about the hypocrisy of the X-Men a couple times right now, but they have the nerve to be aghast. Rogue, what have you done?
What?
You let him fall, says the teleporter and the telepath, right? As if they couldn't have stepped in somehow to mitigate the situation. Okay, but no,
Absolutely.
Blame it all on Rogue. So this nigga
Also
falls
telekinetic.
Like you have ways to step in here. So he falls to his death, but then he is zombie sentinel. Okay, he comes back. He's a thing. He starts fighting them. They're just like, what is this man? They're like, we don't know. They attacking him. He getting hurt, but he's weirdly healing. There's a building falling. And Cyclops is like, Jean, you save the people, the building, I'm gonna get the rubble. She's just like, sir, we're not still on great terms. I got this. Okay. Holds up the whole building and the rubble. And I saw this meme and I loved it because she knew the camera was on her. She did not faint. Okay. She stayed on her 2 feet. And she's like, I could keep doing this. Okay. They fight and sir. He's wiping them out. Things aren't looking great because he's just knocking them down one by one. And then we get somebody coming to help. And I'm thinking, here we go. It's my goddess. She's returned. It's not. It's Cable from the future.
Yeah.
And he using like a future EMP type thing to stop this zombie man. And then everything else that I said with Rogue and the sadness happens. And that's what I got. What did I miss?
Jay, you missed almost nothing, honestly.
Okay.
Wow. Magneto being alive.
Exactly.
You
Magneto
missed that.
being alive.
I didn't
that
say
was
my
that
bad.
aspect.
He's not dead.
And Bastion revealing to Sinister that they now know that Xavier is alive and in space. And, you know, we know that has repercussions going forward and everything. Because one thing that I really like about this series off jump is that they show how the media influences like
the people
world
and the narrative,
feelings and narratives about mutants, which is, you know, a very real thing that we experience in our daily lives. You know, like we might think and feel one thing, but the media says so much of the other that, you know, the narrative changes and how it's perceived in history changes. So that's interesting. But no, Jay, you done got it. Magneto's still alive and he's being shaved by Bastion to a creepy song from the 50s. There's a lot going on there.
Thank you, fan service.
Giving homoerotic,
which a lot of this show does, right?
Yes.
It does.
Deshaun and Daisy, let's start with you. What were your thoughts? What were your feelings on this episode?
So, this episode I thought was such a good display of different grieving processes, and also what it means to be human with these incredible abilities. Because Rogue's entire arc, it was like driven by so much rage and pain, and that came across, I think, so beautifully. And then there was also the little moment that made everything just a touch lighter when they were all in the elevator. Because, like, why are all of these X-Men in the elevator? Just like listening to elevator music. Like, okay, this is fine. This is fine. This is cool. And
Morph refuses to be a serious person, and I love that about
absolutely unserious. And we adore Morph. And also, I think it was just so funny thinking about Trask and him being held up by Rogue and no one doing anything, because every last one of them wanted it to happen.
Yes.
They wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
And so they were just saving face when they were like, "Oh, Rogue, how could you?"
Yeah.
Wolverine was like, y'all wanted to do it too. Don't even play.
Exactly.
Why are we even pretending? And that in that moment, I was like, Wolverine, yes. I struggled with Rogue. I usually support women's wrongs. I really do. I think for me, though, Gambit has been a favorite character since I was a small child. So I really struggled in the previous episodes with her making the decision, even though Magneto was giving body yaddy yaddy, his hair was giving, you know, what lace, like he really truly was like glowing. He had a glow up after his breakup with Charles. So I love that for him. And I understood, you know, the magnetic drawing to him. But for me, I'm like, oh man, I love Remy so much. So for her to make that decision and then like to be upset about, I was like, I understand your grief and I probably would have done the same thing, but I'm still not going to forgive you for that little mistake that you made. And so seeing her go through it, I was like, I 100% support you in this. Still upset though in my feelings. And I know that it comes down to just my absolute disrespect for the white women in the X-Men, because they always be fainting. They are always making stupid decisions. Jay and I have fought over Jean Grey over and over again. I still do not fuck with that bitch. Like I can't. But it was really, like, as you mentioned, the moment with Jubilee showing her youth still, because we were so used to her. Like, we were used to the original X-Men where she was the baby, and, like, we're just getting used to Jubilee, like, learning and getting through all of that. I think wait, was this the moment we missed the moment with Sunspot and his family? Was that in this episode as well? Where his family, like, basically he had his coming out of the closet moment.
Yeah, it actually might have been. Well, no.
Was it?
I think
no, it was the next episode. I thought
all the next episode.
All right, I'll talk about that when we talk about the next episode. Yeah. But it was good to kind of see her again, kind of like as that youth and not really understanding. And like this is probably for her first real X-Men death, I think. Yeah. And so she is also trying to understand why they would react that way versus the others have kind of been there, done that. Even though it's been there, done that, they got resurrected again, and you know how it is. I was like, and then they came back and they did it again. I was like, they've seen Jean Grey die like 100 times at this point, so they're just like, whatever, girl. He might wake up tomorrow, who knows? And probably will, like, who knows? But it was really fascinating. Like, I know, like, I'm very much a diehard Slytherin, gray area is really that gray. So when she dropped Trask, I was like, yep, would have done the same. This is, I was like, y'all are playing with that, like, fake glorified, like, clutching your pearls. Like, how could you? I've been Team Magneto, Team Brotherhood from, again, being a small child. So I was just like, yeah. And who else? Who's next? Go back to the guy from the government. Get rid of him too. Like, let's just clear it out. Let's fix this shit.
Let us uproot the problem.
Right.
Because you leave them there, they're going to continue to spread their ideals. Yeah. And then, boom, you're dealing with it again and again and again. Just take the problem out.
And, I feel like, one thing that we've talked about a lot with this iteration of X-Men is usually I think we do talk about the social issues that exist here, but I feel like so much of the thesis of this, or at least the question that it raises, is how to respond to these social things that come up. And I think there's this thing where Charles largely, and by extension the X-Men often, represent like respectability, right? Like we have to always take the higher ground and be the better person and turn the other cheek, and like we can't whatever. And I think there comes a point where respectability is harmful, and it creates like a false equivalency of like this thing is okay. Like we cannot discount the fact that Trask has always been a bigot, has always hated them, has actively created these weapons to harm them, and it led to genocide. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just like, so we can't really just sit here and pretend like a good little talk is gonna. Sometimes, where's the step? Where's the line? And like, you gotta let some people fall.
Honestly, because if I were in Charles Xavier's manipulative shoes, the moment I saw them design the Sentinel, that would have been it.
That would have been over.
Absolutely not. We're not doing, this is what we're not going to do, because guess what? I'm the world's most powerful telepath. So guess what's about to happen to some of these brilliant, bigoted minds?
You choke on your spit. Something, sir. Something.
Literally anything.
Like, we are losing some things. We're losing some brain function. We are smoothing those wrinkles out. Like,
and iron the wrinkles out. We are not doing this.
Like, these brains are about to be smooth as a pearl. Like, nah, we're not doing that.
I think it was a good example of just like righteous anger. And Cap has always been a cop. I mean, like, I know MCU Cap,
the biggest police,
right? Absolutely.
I hate MCU Captain America.
Right. He has a rebellious moment, but is still all in for the establishment. And you're not gonna, wait for the go ahead from the people that are trying to destroy these people in the first place.
Exactly.
Later on, I think in the last episode, we see him when we'll get there. We see him kind of like, oh no, the president's doing something bad to a marginalized group of people. How could he? And it's like, bruh,
and then do nothing. You could have. It was you and Tony Stark in that room. Y'all could have
done. First off, y'all are in the room. The world is falling apart. You could be out in the streets helping people, but yet no, I have a board meeting, right? Let me go into the bunker, right? The bunker, and like bunker down with this man, and then watch him anyway, we're gonna get there.
But it goes back to the complaints with MCU Cap, where it was like, okay, so this man went back in time to be with the love of his life at the end of the movies, and lived through the civil rights era and didn't help not one time, not one time. You were real quiet.
Not once, very quiet.
Your bestie is black. Like, come on.
No, he was saying that, like, there's going to be this guy in like 30 years. His name's Sam Wilson. He's like my best friend.
He's going to change.
So this is fine.
Oh,
my black friend. He's like, I have a black friend. Okay, guys.
Right.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on this episode overall? It's really just a lot of setup for what is this like kind of gauntlet of tolerance, extinction, part 1, 2, and 3. So I guess maybe we should just get right on into it.
Yeah.
Jay, give me episode 8, Tolerance is Extinction, part 1.
Yeah, so it's kicking off with some family drama, which I think is unfair, right? Cable, it is now revealed at the end. This was a light thing that we missed. It's revealed at the end of episode 7 that Cable is Scott and Madeline's child, right? And now what's important is we have to hold on to all of preceding X-Men, because it's not the first time they've met Cable. So they've had adventures, they've done these things, but it's the first time they now understand who he is. So that reveal happens. They go, oh my God, this man that we knew has been your child the whole time. Now, Cable, to me, needed to be raised in a black family, because the disrespect he was giving Jean and Scott was really pissing me off, because he's just like, Jean, you're not my mother. My mother was your biological copy and inferior, and somehow I'm going to talk down to you. Like, make it make sense. And then with
You're not
Scott,
my real mom.
like, I'm just like, but she literally is. Anyway, and then with Scott was just like, who this man? Fuck you. Like, we not doing that. And it felt to me like a very much, and it's funny because Miguel and I just released our Bad Dads episode. Yeah. He was just like, you're a bad dad. You were never there. And it was just like, well, neither was your mother. And the only thing I can think of is that Madeline, even like why he would feel such kinship to this mother he never grew up with and only really ever knew Jean in their interactions and stuff. The only thing I can think of was that little psychic message she put in his head of just like, I love you. I'm sorry this is happening, baby. Wish I could have been there about it. But that to me is the only thing that makes sense. So anyway, he's coming in with all his teenage drama like he's not a grown-ass man with his hair turning white. And it's like fighting with Scott at meetings, telling Jean to butt out. And again, just needed a strong black hand to put him together.
Auntie Aurora was not in the picture.
She wasn't there, and she should have been, not. Which is also my criticism for everything in this season. So now, the Gray family, the Summers family, decides to do some reconnaissance on Bastion, and they go to his old town, and they meet his mama, and she's just like, "Oh, y'all are early. It's okay. Walk around." Seat yourselves. I'm gonna pack up my things to go. And then we start getting some backstory on Bastion, right? So follow me on this because it's a little.
It's complicated.
He is a technopath, a mutant, but a version of the Sentinels sent by Nimrod, who is another villain from the future, sends something back in time to infect his daddy. His techno sentinel infected daddy has hala with his mama. And then he is born both as the technopath, but also descendant of Sentinels, right? So that speaks to his very unique connection to that whole thing. Then, this is the moment that Daisy was talking about. Roberto takes Jubilee home to meet his mama. And they, again, really double down on this being queer allegory. And he comes out to her. And she goes, mother always knows. I always knew. Yes, I still love you. And Roberta's like, oh, that's crazy. I thought this would be worse. She's like, no, just don't tell nobody. Okay? You could be as gay as you want in that closet, in the basement. Okay? But when you come out of that basement, button it up. Okay? Because we can't. Yeah. Your daddy has business part. We can't do that. Okay? You can be that, but you can't do that. Amen? Amen. And so it's just like, okay. He gets mad. Jubilee also not raised by a black person because as disrespectful as his mom was being, she goes, Okay, bitch, fuck you, Roberto, let's go to the store, spend your money. And I was like, that's still your elder, girl. Like, calm down. But whatever. They go to the store. They're doing shopping on Roberto's mama's dime. Meanwhile, and I'm setting these different things up, right? So we know that the Summers family is at Bastion's mama house. Roberto and Jubilee are now shopping because they met at his mama. And now Beast is trying to figure out, like, what is this? What's going on? He's on the corpse of what's his name? Trask, being like, what is this? And Reporter Girl, who Miguel was just like, they used to fuck in the comics. And I was like, oh, maybe this is a good moment they're gonna have. She's there, and she's just like, I'm so sorry. We've had so many misunderstandings lately, and I don't want that. Like, I just want to be there. I hate that all of this is happening for you. Meanwhile, Rogue is fulfilling the white woman fainting quota. And so she's in a coma this entire episode, just to make sure that there's some consistency. We now have, meanwhile, Magneto, now shaven, half naked, arms outstretched. And it kind of reminded me of the queer awakening a lot of us had watching Clark Kent from Smallville being hung kind of shirtless back in the day. And it was just like narratively unnecessary. Aesthetically, thank you very much for what we are seeing here. Yes. And we're now hearing some more backstory around there. Cooper lady is just like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know any of this was going to happen. This is just a lot. Talk to me, please, Magneto. I didn't know it was going to happen. This is so bad. So now, simultaneously, we have an Order 66 moment, right? Where at the house with Bastion's mom, that bitch goes into a full backbend, and it was like, oh, okay, and reveals she is Sentinel Monster too. Beast is just like, wait a minute, I've done this research on this thing. There are a lot more of these creatures. Is there even one? And then Reporter Girl, she won too. And then Jubilee and Roberto, they're shopping at the mall, and the valet guy, he won too. So now all of a sudden, Order 66 happened. Everybody a Sentinel nigga, okay? And so now everybody's under attack. Let me tell you, Wolverine and Nightcrawler, they putting in work, okay? They trying to save Rogue. Yes. And what's crazy about this, unfortunately, it's a battle of attrition, because the X-Men are very much stronger than these Sentinels, but they're being overwhelmed both with numbers and by the broken ability for them to regenerate. So Nightcrawler, he doing his little three-sword something, poof, 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 and Wolverine's just like, sing. And they just healing themselves. And so it's not looking good for our people. They having great moments, but it's not looking good. They blew up another Blackbird. I don't know where they get the funding to keep making these big ass planes they keep destroying. And then they also blow up the Porsche. And again, things aren't looking good. Now, Gwen Cooper, that's her name, right? Cooper, her first name's Gwen?
I believe.
Yes.
White Lady Cooper lady.
Yes.
White Lady Cooper. You win.
White Lady Cooper lady. She's just
Gwendolyn
like,
Cooper. Yep.
Magneto, I'm sorry, I'm gonna free you. He gets out. He goes to the North Pole, and he's just like, we shutting this shit down. And his magnetic abilities with the magnetic poles, it kind of amplifies his powers, and he casts a global EMP that not only shuts down all of the Sentinels and saves the day, but shuts down the entire planet, okay? And then, as everything burns, Charles arrives, and he's just like,
sorry I'm late, guys.
am I late? And it's like, sir! So that's what I got. As always, what did I miss?
The most important line. It was when Gwen Cooper said Magneto was right.
Right.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Right.
So
I have been saying since 1996.
I just looked it up. Her name's Valerie Cooper.
Valerie.
Oh, okay.
Cooper.
Yeah. Valerie Gwendolyn Cooper. That's exactly it.
Okay.
Gwendolyn is her middle name. Yes, Valerie Gwendolyn Cooper. Yeah. There we go.
So some interesting things that we hadn't seen before. We'd never actually seen how Nightcrawler, what he sees when he is teleporting. We do.
Let me pause you real quick here. Did y'all watch X-Men Evolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you remember the episode where they put something on him that like slowed on Nightcrawler, that like slowed his morphs down, so that one time like he poofed away and there was like this like hellscape of brimstone and stuff and stuff?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it reminded me of that.
It's that's kind of like an alternate version of this, because they do play into the in X-Men Evolutions, like him being like kind of like demonic, because of the whole Christian backdrop, which is kind of interesting. But here we just see like he kind of like stretches through time, and Wolverine goes through like a mini acid trip for like a quick second. That, and then Jay, you're killing it on these explanations, bro. You got it.
Absolutely.
He's acting like it's rare, just by the way.
No, I did. When we did this before, I did miss some things. Yeah.
No, but Jay came prepared
this time. Yes, I was
prepared. All right.
Let's start with Deshaun. Thoughts on the beginning of the end?
Oof. I loved this episode. The one thing that keeps making a theme in all of these American sort of dystopian movies is that why are we being led by people without foresight? Oh, I never thought that this would ever happen. Y'all keep saying that. I'm just like, you're all liars because you know what's going to happen. But that's neither here nor there. That's not about her. I thought the relationship with the Summers, Auntie Aurora was missed big time because Cable, I'm just like, your anger does not necessarily make sense to me.
Right.
And I need y'all to get it together, like real quick, because it's not like we're going into the potential end of the world, right? So all of the family attitudes, not necessary. We can talk about this after we save the planet. Yeah.
I don't disagree. I might have a slightly alternate take though. Later, where it's revealed that like they at some point in the next episode they ask Cable how many times he's seen the end of the world, and it was something like 200 times. I think my man's just jaded. Like and I think he's just like putting that onto his parents because that's something he can kind of like control. I completely agree with you. Like they sent him to the future because he was going to die regardless. Like there's all that love coming from Badlin. I did love that father and son moment where Cable was like, "You have a Porsche," and Cyclops was like, "Yeah." Like,
that was very cute. That was very cute.
Cyclops being the ultimate cop that's not a cop because he's like there's just the rebel leader who needs order. But I think my man just needs a hug, unfortunately.
Real.
Yeah. For me, it was like Cable, what are you not getting? They sent you away to save your life and they wanted to come with you, but like they couldn't. Like it's not really like what were they supposed to do? Keep you around so you would die? Like I don't really understand.
Yeah.
And again, it's just one of those ungrateful things to me, and I don't understand that kind of behavior. I was raised in a black home, so I know I would have been smacked upside the head if I even called my parents by their first name. I would have been like, "Hello, mother, father, nice to see you again." Just feeling myself.
And then it's like, you have seen the world in 200 times. Yes, you might be jaded, but in all of that, you didn't understand why you were sent away.
Right.
And all those different times that you have tried to save the world again and again and again, you did not understand that your parents are trying to send you to safety.
Right.
I'm just like, come on. We got to start using the wrinkles in our heads now. They are important.
I love a villain trope. I wanted to see even more of like Bastion's backstory. I felt like I needed like a full episode, like just like a whole thing where I could really like get to explore what was going on there because it happened so quickly. I think to me at least, I love lore. I want more build up on that. I was like, give me like a secret episode after everything's done for that kind of thing, like a teaser episode to prepare for the next season. Because I really just want to know more about that character. And for me, Bastion is truly a villain that I actually don't know very well in comparison to some of the others. And I'm so glad that the X-Men did not go back to its original trope of just dealing with the same villains.
Yeah,
I know I mentioned to Jay like my frustration with the Fantastic Four and how they keep going back to like Silver Surfer, Doctor. Just like I'm over it. Like let's move on to the new things. I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe did a really good job of kind of like exploring different villains and what we were used to with the Avengers. So I was like, I'm glad that they did that, because I for sure had no idea who the big bad was going to be this season, especially with Magneto coming out immediately being like, I'm on y'all's side, and I was like, are you?
He said, "Oh, this is different."
Wait, what?
Right.
But I did. Is this the same episode? No, that was the next episode. I keep jumping episodes. But anyway, Magneto coming, shutting things down. And I was like, let's remind these bitches how powerful this man is.
Yes.
At least that was done with him. Unlike other characters who deserved a little bit more this season,
which we'll get into.
We will.
Certainly get into it. But I really did appreciate this episode as sort of like a backstory, kind of starting to clear things up, seeing all the family drama after all like the death the previous episode. We had a lot more action in the last episode. Like there was action in this episode, and it was a lot of them like running away, kind of dealing with like a Walking Dead zombie sort of situation. And it was like truly terrifying to me, the thought that like anyone could be a Sentinel, and I was like, how do we change them back? Like, what do we do?
Which I want to double in on for a second, because one thing I did miss was Bastion talks about how we got the bodies for this, and what's insidious is people signed up. Right? They didn't sign up knowing the full extent of what was going to happen to them, but people willingly had so much hatred, fear, anxiety, whatever in them that they were willing to undergo this, which kind of goes back to like Reporter Lady, right? Who had framed herself for so long of like wanting to be an ally, wanting to tell their story, wanting to like help advance the cause, but really insidiously was not, right? Was literally an op and was doing that stuff.
So like seeing Beast's reaction to her turning was actually like, I was just like, this man trusted her and thought that she was on their side, and for this to turn, and she was like so upset about Genosha, like and then it was like she signed up for this. Like that's crazy.
And it's wild because how many people like that exist in the real world? That pretend, that is smiling to our faces, saying, "Oh, I am in full support of you," and then next thing you know, they're bashing us, trying to stab us in the back.
Next thing you know, white women are the number one voters of Trump, right? So,
and that's exactly what it was giving this episode.
100%.
Yeah, and so like I feel like everyone who has experienced just any sort of system of oppression, when Magneto said enough, that was so deeply felt. And the thing is, like, they could have made an echo, they could have added that reverb, but the fact that they didn't do any of that, and it was just a flat enough, and everything was shut down. That moment gave me chills, and I was like, okay, because I do feel like storylines are a little too compressed in X-Men 97, and things happen
burn through story.
And it happens way too quickly. But I think that was so well done because we got the full arc over the course of the previous 7 episodes of just how far humanity was willing to go in order to get rid of something that was different.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that with what they had, that a 10 episode run, they were as expeditious as they could as they could have been, which sometimes led into some character issues, like Bastion maybe being slightly underdeveloped. And hinting at or just saying things that they could have shown if they had more time. Like later we learned that Bastion could have been an original X-Men. I would have loved to have actually seen that, or seen a flashback of that at some point. Like there are things that they could have done to kind of settle that, but like they only had so much time and so much money. So I think they used it pretty well. We could go on this forever.
Can I say one last thing about this episode? I'm
go
sorry.
Ahead. Yeah.
Another thing I forgot. See, I do be forgetting, Daisy. Roberto runs away at the mall, runs to his mother, who's at an event, and says,
this is
"Hey,
so
Mom,
insidious.
Mom, these people are after me. They're trying to kill me."
Right.
And then the people arrive, and they're just like, "No, we're not trying to kill. We just need to detain." And she's at this party.
God, yes.
It's very public. And she tells him, go with them, right? It's a rejection of her son to keep the peace let us save face, like just hand yourself over. And it's a heartbreaking moment for Roberto that plays directly into what happens in the next episode, but the choice that he makes. But it's one of those things where I think as we talk about the insidiousness of like betrayal that happens a lot, where I think there are some people who see themselves, sure, as intolerant, or some who see themselves as better, but there are other people who just want quiet. They just want to maintain a status quo. They just want things to like be here. And sometimes they feel like when these minorities are pushing back, it causes chaos, and we don't want that. Let's just settle things down. And very often that settling is rooted in oppression. And they don't necessarily see themselves as complicit in oppression. They just want they want to turn down the volume a little bit, but it has a really deleterious impact on the people around them. So
yeah, absolutely.
I had a similar thought when Logan, shed light, but also was like basically accused Magneto of declaring war on humanity by, EMPing the entire world. But y'all was dying,
right?
Like if
y'all
he didn't do that,
y'all were dying.
What was everything was going to go down anyway?
And why was that the act of war, and not what led to which really?
Thank you.
We're really about to get into this heavy in the next one. The gaslighting that was happening.
Yeah, it was very cop behavior of Logan.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's not Logan usually. Yeah. Logan's usually the one who's like,
right.
Yeah, and I think if he were to expand on that, he would kind of explain it because it's nuanced because he is on the X-Men kind of side of things. The more normalcy is best, and talking about it, even though he is the loose cannon of the group. But
and I think he's battle weary. You know what I mean?
I mean, my man's been not unlike Cable.
And I honestly think his dislike of Magneto actually
that too.
was more. It was more of that than it was like.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because I think if it was anyone else, because he had just supported Rogue throwing Trask off the building. If it had been Scott, well, maybe not Scott, but if it had been like Jean that did it, he might have felt differently. But I think because of Magneto, he was just like, I'm going to focus on how much I hate Magneto.
And something that I just thought about because I'm remembering how manipulative Charles is. What if while everyone was under his training, he was like drip feeding them his ideals of like normalcy, and that was like and that was like just slowly tainting their brains.
But here's my thing,
and it like took
it's not that I put that I say like that I put that past him. It's more to me. It doesn't make sense in that why would you drip that into their minds of just like hold on to this belief or whatever, and not inversely do that to people that are actually causing the opposition. You know what I mean?
Because Charles is a human apologist.
Like, yes, he is an apologist.
Like he in some ways values the opinion and lives of humans over the opinion and lives of mutants because humans are the larger population on Earth. We can get into it circularly.
We're about
forever. We're about to get into more of it. Jay, give us Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. All right, y'all. That was the first half of our X-Men 97 finale panel. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out the second half of the panel in a couple of weeks when we release that. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. And we'll see you back here soon. Peace.